Okay, looks like we have a few more of our folks. Okay, so there was no objection, so I'm recording this so that we can post this so that our administrators who were not able to make it today can at least hear the content that I am providing. But welcome. I know how busy you all are, especially as we're winding down to the end of the school year and all of the responsibilities you have. So I appreciate you being here, and I'm going to try and make the best use of your time. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about today is, if I can get my slideshow here to work, we're going to do a little bit of background history with computer science education and things that have transpired through the last legislative session. If you have questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. You could also, I'll have a moment where I'll break and then I'll say, are there any questions? And we can have some discussions. Go ahead and turn your mic on, and then you can ask those. But if there's something burning, you don't want to forget it, then please put it in the chat. So we're going to talk about a little bit of the background history of where we are here in Nevada with regards to computer science education. The Senate Bill 200 requirements that were put into law in the last legislative session. Did someone have a question already? No, not quite yet? Okay. We'll talk about the computer science initiatives that are moving forward, as well as funding that has been provided through SB 200. What this looks like implementing in the schools, so in elementary particularly. Teacher endorsement updates and how that impacts moving forward. Then I'm going to provide some resources for you, and then we'll talk a little bit about technology standards revision coming up, give you my contact information, and then we'll talk about any remaining questions that you might have at the end that we haven't already discussed. All right, so a little bit of background history. Back in 2015, some folks from throughout the nation got together to write the K-12 computer science framework. Nevada actually had a team who was part of this process, which is really nice to hear that we have been at the beginning of this movement that many states are working on now in our nation. So we were reviewers of this framework. In 2016, the National K-12 Computer Science Framework was published, and that outlines the main concepts that should be taught, how to implement it, all the way from pre-K to 12th grade, a lot of other resources for districts as well, and that's online. I'll give you that link in a little bit. In 2016, Nevada joined the ESEP Alliance, Expanding Computing Education Pathways, which is a group of states in our nation who are implementing computer science in their curriculum. And so we have this wealth of resources. We have general monthly meetings with them where we share best practices. We talk about the struggles that we're having and in the district level to the state level. And it's just nice to have this group of folks who are researchers, to state Department of Ed and state board folks, educators. There's the gamut. So it's nice to have this resource. In May of 2017, so last year, the Department of Ed created a position in computer science, and that is when I came into this position. Oh, Michelle, you're having trouble hearing, but you're working on it. Okay. Let me let her know. So what is unique about this, because you may or may not know, computer science has always been in Nevada for quite some time, but at the high school CTE level. But what this mandate has done now is move computer science into the core areas. The position that I'm in is in the standards and instructional support, which is where we have our math and our science and our ELA and our social studies, so all of our core subjects. I work very closely with our CTE lead on computer science, but we have expanded computer science for K through 12. In 2017, also in June, Senate Bill 200 was signed by Governor Brian Sandoval, so that was signed into law, and I'll go through what that actually means. In July, this computer science team that I spoke about that was part of the implementation of the framework in the law is now called the Computer Science Subcommittee, and it is underneath the Governor's Office of Science, Information, and Technology. So that was also a change that was put into law. In July, the national CSTA standards were announced, and so those were built off of the framework. So you start with the K-12 computer science framework. National standards were built off of that, the CSTA. And then as you can see in August, our Nevada K-12 computer science standards were built off of those national standards and the framework. So there's where you have your technology standards that are built off of ISTE, then you have your computer science standards that were built off the CSTA. So we have some depth there. In September of 2017, professional development began for our CS Discoveries course, which is at the middle school level, and the CS Principles, which is at the high school level. In December, our FY18 funding allocation process began. Part of the Senate Bill 200 bill was allocations for 2 years. So we started our fiscal year 18, that ends in June 30th, and then we have already begun the process for our FY19 allocation. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Just this January, our computer science standards were approved by the state board. They're currently in the regulatory phase, and that will be done in June. And then in March, last month, the COPS workshop, the Commission on Professional Standards, approved changes for the CS endorsements for our teacher licensing. And then April, this month, our fiscal year 19 funding allocation process began for the bill. All right, let's see here. There we go. So the mission for computer science for Nevada is, as you can read there, is to provide this engaging and rigorous computer science education for all students. Like I stated, we've had computer science already. It's been at the CTE level. It's usually one where, you know, if a student shows interest in it, then a counselor would direct them to take that elective course. And that's about it. That's kind of where we've been. But moving forward with the way our world is becoming more and more digitally reliant, our schools need to also change how they approach computer science education so that our students are graduating with the skills that they need to be successful. And we want to get rid of this gap that we're seeing with it's primarily males who are in these computer science courses. We want to make sure that all students in Nevada, regardless of their gender, their age, race, disabilities, anything, have access to computer science education. And so our vision for this is that our students are computer science literate, that they are able to have solid discussions on computer science principles and the foundations. They know how to use their phones, right? We know that. They use them all the time in their classrooms. But they don't necessarily know how they work. They you know, can Snapchat till they close their eyes at night, but they don't know how that image gets from their phone to another person's phone, and more importantly, that it doesn't just disappear, that it is out there forever. And so these are the things that they really need to understand, how these processes work, how these networks work. They have a better understanding of the computing world around them, and that they're able to perform and express themselves in other subjects and interests. As they learn computational thinking and problem solving, it will help them across all subject areas. All right, so I hear this all the time. Well, are robots going to take over the world? No, they're not going to take over all jobs, but they will take over a majority of them. Jobs that are routine, repetitive, predictable, those are the most likely to be replaced with technology. So our students, our kindergartners right now, by the time they're ready to graduate in, I don't know, is it 2030 or something, we have no idea what that future is going to look like for them as far as jobs and careers and the skill sets they're going to need. But we can guarantee that computing and technology will be major components of what they have to do. And so preparing them is of the utmost concern. We have thousands of computing jobs that are open right now that are unfilled. But when we talk about our youngsters here in our elementary, the impetus behind Section 3 of Senate Bill 200 was this: are we testing our students on their actual skill sets, their subject area knowledge, or are we testing them on their computer skills, how to use a computer? Is it fair to test a student on the computer who has grown up with an iPad pretty much from birth versus testing a student who, for whatever reason, has not had that opportunity to interact with computing and computers at home in their area? It is not a fair assessment across the board. And so one of the things that Senate Bill 200 has changed in Section 3 that I'm going to go into in detail in a little bit is that they have moved instruction for technology prior to 6th grade, so that they can develop those skills and be ready to take these assessments as they come and actually be assessing on their subject knowledge. But we'll talk about that in just a second. The official Senate Bill 200 document is up there on that first link, the legislative state site. I also have a link to it on the Department of Education's computer science pages that will take you to that site. On there is an overview, on the department site is an overview by section. So if you want to see what each section is telling you, you can look at it that way. That third link is to the STEMhub site that I'm going to show you in just a minute, that I have actually broken it down by effective date. So effective July 1st, 2018, this part of the bill needs to be covered. So it however you want to look at it, I've got those in all those different areas. So on the state advocacy page of CS4NV, I will show you. Hopefully everybody is able to see my screen. But here's the STEMhub site. It's at stemhub.nv.gov/CS4NV. I encourage you to sign up for with your email so that you can receive information as it moves forward, as this develops with the computer science, that I will send out updates. But on the main menu, you have your CS4NV link, and here's our section that has everything CS. So there's going to be stuff there for students, there's stuff there for educators that I'll talk about in a minute, industry, resources and events, and then state advocacy. The state advocacy page, I'll start with there since you're administrators. It will be of interest to you. This is where I've broken down the bill by effective date. So effective last July, according to the bill, students can count, for example, the following courses for fourth year math or third year science graduation. So that's more at the high school level. These are the appropriations that were given by district. The bill has a 2-year appropriations. Clark for last year received $700,000, Washoe $100,000, and then the rurals and charters $200,000 by a non-competitive application. So what that means is your district leads and grant folks could put together an application. In our rurals, some of them joined into consortiums, and they put a budget together and a plan on how to spend the money. And then our charters also had sent in applications. So we take all of those applications, divide them up in a non-competitive way, and then those get allocated, and you can see how those appropriations were divided out for this year. So effective date this coming July. This is where this affects you folks in the elementary school. The very first one there, before beginning 6th grade, so K through 5, all students are required to receive instruction in computer education and technology. That goes back to what I was saying before, where are we testing our students on their computer skills or on their knowledge of the subject matter. So this would include simple keyboarding skills, how to navigate on the computer. Some of our students are really good at swiping. They're good at using the phones and the iPads and so forth. Sometimes our little kindergartners don't know how to use the mouse. So I mean, those are simple things that we need to incorporate, and I'll go into a little bit detail with the computer education technology, what that means. But that's our K through 5. Then we've got the second one is, again, high school and middle school related. The third one, we have appropriations that are coming out this year. So Clark is $800. It increased a little bit this year. Washoe is $200, and then the rurals and charters will now share the $400,000. Computer science and computer education technology professional development will begin. It's actually already begun, so that's already in place. Effective also this July, adds computer science computational thinking to our computer ed tech standards, and I'll go into detail what that means in my slide deck. The NDE, in consultation with the computer science subcommittee, that task force that became the subcommittee under the governor's OSIT site, is now charged to review all instruction and make recommendations to the Nevada State Board moving forward. Currently, the curriculum for computer science that the state board to date has accepted includes the code.org suite, so CS fundamentals for elementary, CS discoveries for middle school, and CS principles at the high school level. So just like what you do with textbook adoptions, if there's other CS curriculums such as Project Lead the Way or whatever that your district chooses, if they want to use that above these, then they need to go through the same process where they will, the district will submit a request. All of the forms are on the department site to have this curriculum reviewed and then accepted. You know, if it meets the standards and so forth, then we'll also put that as an approved curriculum. All right, but that needs to go through the district level. And currently, that won't apply to CTE. That's high school. Okay, so I'll let you look at those moving forward on your own. I do want to show you, though, for your teachers, that you can let them know that we have professional development for elementary teachers already. Like I said, the code.org curriculum training is a one-day training for computer science fundamentals, and it's on Saturdays typically. RPDP, I believe, will actually come out to your site and do a training. Perhaps you have it on a PD day that they can come out and do that. The curriculum is free, and the training is free. So, it's good training actually, but that's available for you. The new licensing requirements are here. I will say that they do not affect your elementary teachers. They do not need to go get an endorsement for the computer science and the changes in the computer ed tech. Just professional development would be highly encouraged. Okay, so I won't belabor that. This next drop down is for the computer science standards. They are also on the department's website, but this is just a quick link to it. There's a link to the full version of the standards, and then to the condensed version, which is easier for you to see the progression of instruction across the grade levels. The computer science standards writing team, when they had their discussion on how to break up the standards, they decided to have the K-5 standards be by grade level. So kindergarten has their own, first grade, second grade, so forth. And then they are broken by grade bands, 6 through 8, 9 through 12 after that, because as we know, secondary is structured a little different. They will still say proposed until they go through the complete regulatory process, which will end July 7th with the state board's last meeting for the year. Excuse me. All right, were there any questions on any of that before I go any further?
I wondered if you could speak just a little bit more about the portion where you're talking about the non-competitive grant for supporting these standards in schools.
Sure.
I'm from rural Nevada, and I teach in I have teachers in K-4 school, and you know, the infrastructure and supporting these standards is my biggest concern at this point. What is the state going to do as far as to support that?
So when you say infrastructure, are you referring to the actual broadband, or are you talking about resources such as equipment?
I guess what I meant, I'm not worried about the broadband. I'm more concerned with the equipment. Yes.
Equipment. Okay, great.
Books, other devices to support this.
Right, right. Okay. So let me go back to state advocacy. With the allocation that you currently have. Okay, so again, with the rurals, they took this 200,000, and some of them decided to get into consortiums. So you can see here, Story, White Pine, Lincoln, Churchill, and Pershing joined with Nye. Carson City, Douglas, and Lyon were in one. Esmeralda went rogue on their own, and then these are our charters. And so with that, and obviously it's through the district, hopefully with input from you folks and their grant department, they decide a vision or a strategy on how they're going to broaden computer science in their district. And then after they come up with that strategy, they decide how they want to spend the funds. Now, the one thing that I did put on them through the application, and the application, if you want to see what that looks like, this coming fiscal year 19 application is up on the department's website on the grants page. But one of the things that I have put in there as required is if you are going to ask for equipment, that you must include professional development for your teachers in addition to that ask for equipment. So it's a little different than, say, an ed tech grant, where you want to get a laptop cart for 3 of your classrooms, right? And maybe there's some PD on how to use the software that's on those computers, or how to use the computers or devices or whatever. But that's different than what I'm saying here, because as you can see, as you dive into the bill, there's a strong emphasis on professional development in computer science and computational thinking instruction, right? So if a district says, I want X amount of laptops and that's it, I'm going to say to them, so what you're telling me is then that all of your teachers throughout your district are computer science literate and prepared to teach that in the classes. And they'll come back and say, well, no, that's not what I meant, but I need the equipment. But I understand that, but as long as there's professional development provided for those teachers, then that equipment can go hand in hand. And it needs to be professional development in computer science education and instruction in the classroom, such as you would get through the trainings that I have listed there. So that's where I'm kind of helping the district see that's where that needs to be the focus. So as you move forward with what your needs are in your specific situations, in your schools, in your district, I encourage you to reach out to your district curriculum folks who are in charge of the grants, to say, hey, these are the needs that we have in order to implement the requirements of this bill. This is what we see that we need. Can we be a part of your district build out of the allocation and use of these funds? Because as you can see, with the different consortiums, then the money got divided up considerably different with each of them, to move whatever vision they had for broadening the computer science education. So I can't really say specifically you get X amount of dollars this next go around. I can say that there is an allotted $400,000 this time, so it's doubled for our rurals. So hopefully you can all become part of the discussion with your district leads on what your needs are, and vice versa. Hopefully they're reaching down to you to say, what those needs are. Did that help, Jonathan?
Yeah, and for fiscal year 2018, the funds have already been allocated, so
correct.
Any further funds cannot be applied for this coming school year.
Yeah. Again, reach out to your district folks, because, and you can see who the consortiums were there, because they will have their district plan on how they're allocating the funding. But yes, it has to all be used by June 30th. So I'm not exactly sure in your district where, I have those files, but I'm not sure where that they were allocated. But they will know. You're welcome. Any other questions with anything that I've spoke about so far? Okay, so let's move forward then. Give you some more information. So the standards, again, those are posted. There's a full-length version. How they were written is with your K through 5, particularly. They are broken down by grade level, and at the bottom of each of those standards, so if you're looking at your kindergarten standards, then you have these 5 major concepts: algorithms and programming, computing systems, data and analysis, impacts of computing, and then networks and the internet. And each of those 5 concepts will have its own page for kindergarten. And down below, it'll have the connections to other core subject areas: math, science, ELA, and social studies. So if you're a 3rd grade teacher and you're teaching, I don't have them in front of me, but one of the math connections that connects with algorithms and programming, then you can hit on both at the same time. So that's why those connections were put in there, particularly for our elementary teachers, so they could align their instruction. So what is computer science and what isn't it? Because a lot of folks are saying, well, we already have our technology classes, we're already doing it. Computer science is, as you can see on the left, understanding why and how computers work, creating programs rather than just using them. So programming an app or a game, interactive data visualizations. Everything today is run by data. It's big data. And how do we take that data, analyze it, put it into a visualization that can tell a story and so forth, and that it's interactive, that we can, if we change this component over here, how will that change the model? There are algorithms behind everything, simulating disease spread, building a computer system, and how does all of this computing impacting on our society. So these are the components of computer science. As you can see, they're not just all programming, it's not just all coding, it's the computational thinking behind it. What's not computer science is the keyboarding or internet research, PowerPoints, how to edit a movie or photo using apps created by others. This is more of our technology education that we are familiar with already, that we've been integrating throughout our K-12 system for quite some time. This is not going away, but we are adding computer science as another layer of skill set that our students need. And these two flow very closely together, although they are not the same. So what we have is our computer and technology education. You'll see that in the bill where it says we've added computer science to computer technology education. So what that means is we consider it like an umbrella. We've got the computer ed and technology is our main subject area, and the two prongs underneath are the K-12 computer science standards that are built off of the national CSTA standards, and then the other prong is the K-12 technology standards that we've already had that are built on the ISTE national standards. I'll talk about this in a minute, but these were, the technology standards were written back in 2010, so they're due up for review coming here very shortly. So again, we talked about, so before beginning 6th grade, so in our elementary schools, all students are required to receive instruction in computer education and technology, so that larger subject box there at the top, as approved by the state board. So that includes the computer science standards and the technology standards. And then they're required to receive professional development. All right, this is just an overview of how the allocation was given. It's just a graph of the values that you saw prior. The grant money that is coming up that you talked about for this fiscal year, if you go to the department's website, grants, it has the application up there, so you can take a look at that and what is being looked for to see if that will help you as you devise what your schools need. It opened March 30th. It closes the end of this month. Then the awards letters will be sent out to the districts and charters. Starting June 1st, the districts can begin submitting requests for approval. So they'll send in their budget requests. It will be looked at and then approved prior to purchase. Beginning July 1st, they can start spending the money to get those items into the school's hands. And then next June 30th is the end of that allocation period. Then we'll be in the next legislative session and hope that there will be more funding for computer science education. My hope is that we'll be able to show how much these 2-year allocations have made a difference for our schools and our districts that then we can ask to hope that there will be continued funding for this. So the stemhub.nv.gov/csfornv site I talked to you about already, the proposed licensing endorsements and so forth. Again, elementary teachers will not need any additional endorsements. All right, so the big question, where do I put this computer ed technology coursework prior to 6th grade? Now, what this looks like in each district is obviously going to be different, because that depends on the vision that your district has, the resources you have in your specific schools, and what you need. But a suggested pathway for computer science K-12 would look something like this. So at each grade level, you have your computer science standards that are taught specifically to those students. Now, I would suggest at this point that you think outside the box on this. There are a lot of computer science standards that are fundamental skills, terminology, etc., that do not require a computer in order to implement. So I'm not saying at some point they won't need to get into a computer lab, but especially at the younger levels, it is not a requirement to teach computer science on a computer. Ideally, that they will have some lab time, especially for the code.org fundamentals curriculum, to be able to get to a computer lab and actually have that hands-on representation of the theory and stuff that they've been learning. But especially in the younger grades, you can teach the fundamentals through Old MacDonald Had a Farm. That function is a computer science term that talks about taking a group of instructions that are repeated over and over again, and they're known to work. You take them out, and then that function can be called numerous times. Well, that's what we're doing in the song Old MacDonald Had a Farm. We're calling that function being a chorus multiple times throughout. So it's at this young level, it's getting the terminology and the foundation to be taught so that they hear it over time, and it just becomes a natural way of life. Then as they get into the secondary level, they start to really internalize it and apply and begin building and creating those artifacts that have incorporated the foundation that they've learned in the elementary level. Now, when it comes, like we talked about the computer science part of the computer education technology, now let's talk about that tech side. I'm sure that most, if not all, of your teachers incorporate the ISTE standards and technology use in their classrooms. But how this looks for implementation at your particular school, it could look quite different. It could be your K-5 teachers are teaching both of these throughout their curriculum. It could be you have a librarian or tech specialist who sees all the students in all grade levels, and it's implemented that way. But one thing that I can say, that the overall goal is our K-5 students have the skills necessary to succeed in their current technological environment and beyond. And we know that students learn little by little as they hear it more and more and more. So if we could get those layers built somehow to where they internalize the content and the skill set and the knowledge, then all the better. But that it's not taught in isolation. So again, this will be discussions with your districts. I am going to meet with district curriculum leaders in May. So I am going to talk to them more about what their vision of this looking like at the elementary level, and any questions and concerns that you have, I would be happy to take that before them and start to come up with a plan on how this could be implemented. So I'm happy to do that to help you folks. Before I go into resources, were there any questions in particular about this part of the bill implementing this prior to 6th grade? All right, I think we're good. Okay. So resources for you, for your teachers. This is for everyone. It doesn't have to just be for teachers. All educators, administrators, and so forth. We have the Computer Science Teachers Association, brand new chapter for our state. It is connected with the National CSTA Association, so we have resources and backing there. This is our lead group for our board for the chapter. There are resources there such as mentors for your teachers. They have regular meetings. They have recommendations for curriculum and resources. There's just a lot going on there, so I would wanted you to be aware of that you do have that at your disposal. The STEM Hub site that I just spoke about, if you could sign up for emails on there, you'll receive further information as it comes out regarding computer science in the state. The department, there's information on there as well. If you're interested in knowing who the subcommittee members are, that is listed there as well. One thing I will say about our subcommittee member list that we're lacking is a representative from the elementary level. I would really love to have an elementary voice on that committee so that we know what those needs are particularly. And so if anyone is so inclined to be a member on that subcommittee, please reach out to me and let me know. On the department site, we also have frequently asked questions. So please look at that. That will help you with dates and timing and so forth. There's a calendar of events. And then I want to highlight the Instructional Materials Resource Center. Currently, we do not have it built out for computer science because it is so new, but I would love to take back any feedback that you have on what you'd like to see on there as far as resources. And so we can build that out for our educators. Another resource for computational thinking for your teachers is on the ISTE site. We have a lot. There's a computational thinking toolkit. This resource book I have found is excellent on helping guide teachers with the computer science and the ed tech and incorporating that into your curriculum. And finally, we have a Computer Science Summit, the first one ever. It's going to be this summer in June. And we have our state superintendent will be speaking about computer science in Nevada. We have the chief academic officer from code.org will be speaking about computer science on the national level and where Nevada fits in with everything that's happening there. We're going to have courses on how to, or breakout sessions on how to attract females, underrepresented demographic youth, those with disabilities to our classes with the computer science, how to do after school clubs and events like that at all levels, elementary, middle, and high school. So there's going to be a lot of resources provided at this event. We are asking districts to send a team that includes the district leads, superintendents, as well as administrators from elementary, middle, and high school, and educators from elementary, middle, and high school, as well as high school counselors, secondary counselors, to attend so that you get that perspective, and there will be some strategic planning time for districts to work together on how they want to implement computer science education in their district moving forward. So please reach out to your district representative to see if you would like to be a part of that team. Registrations are currently going on right now, and they close May 11th. So we need to get folks registered as soon as possible, so don't waste any time to reach out. The computer and technology standards that I was talking about before that are based on the ISTE standards, our Nevada ones are from 2010. We are going to be rewriting those in this fall. If you would like to be part of that review team, please reach out to me. Those would impact the courses that your technology courses that you would have in your elementary. So we would pull from those standards to help your teachers teach to that technology needs. All right. At this point, that's pretty much the overview of everything. But what questions or concerns do you have for me that we can talk about? I did have a question in the chat. What about the refresh of the ISTE standards for computer science educators? The ISTE standards for computer science for educators, those were refreshed, I believe those were 2017. The standards for the students were 2016. So I believe, actually I don't know the answer to that, if they're going to be working on both the standards for the students and the educators when they do the rewrite, but I will write that down and make sure I find that out. Thank you, Leanne. Is it the fall of, okay. So the educator ones are the ones that are currently being revised. So those will be done in the fall as well. Okay. Yeah, so I'm not sure if the educators will be part of that, but I am going to ask that question. That's why I kind of pushed off the rewrite for fall, because I knew those would be coming out soon. And if they're coming out in the fall of 2018, that means that they are currently in a proposed version somewhere, so we could probably have those in our hands at the time of the writing. Let's see. Oh, Alan says that Washoe County School District Information Security Office is available as a resource for any Washoe staff. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. Yes, I'm hoping that the STEMhub site can become a repository of resources in addition to our CSTA chapter for everyone, that we could be able to have this this group of resources and ideas. And as I find more, as I deal nationally, to be able to put those links up there as well and just build this. Yeah. My main priority is making sure that our teachers are comfortable, especially at the elementary level. They have my heart. They teach so much of all the subjects every day. And computer science at first glance might be very daunting and scary for them. And so I want to assure them that they can do this, that we will provide the resources, whatever they need, and that once they dig into it, they will come to understand that it's not only vital, but it's not as scary as first thought. So anyone who's taken any of the fundamentals courses that I have taught have learned that, oh, I can do this. This isn't what I thought. This isn't as scary as I thought. I've got this. And so I love hearing that. So just reassure them that they've got this, that it's going to be okay, and they'll have the resources available for them. Did you folks have any other questions? Any concerns? And you're most welcome. I hope this was informative and helpful for you. And if there's anything else I can do, please let me know. If there's any other information that I can provide in the same kind of format with a bite-sized seminar, please shoot me an email and let me know, and I'll be happy to start up another seminar series. All right.
Hey, so thank you. I wondered if there's a time that I could maybe schedule to chat with you over the phone.
Absolutely. Yes, just shoot me an email. Let me change this to my contact information. and we can find a time where we can chat. Definitely, I would love to. Any other questions, comments? You're welcome, Leanne. It's my pleasure to put this together. I was just trying to rack my brain and figure out how can I reach the most folks with zero travel budget dollars, and this just came to mind. So, and I don't want to take much time out of your day because you're all so busy, but I want to get this very crucial information to you. And please share it with your colleagues. I think I had a total of 93 folks sign up for the entire different courses, from educators all the way to district leads, and that's 93 folks out of the entire state. I'm a little worried. So please share this information. Let them know that that stemhub.nv.gov has all of the stuff on there that they should be able to use. Okay. So if there aren't any other questions or concerns, again, thank you so much for joining me and taking this time out of your day. And just know that I'm here as a resource for you, whatever you need. You just reach out to me. Okay? Thank you so much. Take care.